There was an ordinary morning before it happened. This is the fact that is hardest to hold and easiest to forget. Somewhere in the shallows of the western interior, a group of Edmontosaurus waded through a stand of flowering plants, angiosperms that had been spreading across the Cretaceous world for tens of millions of years, their bright blooms now common at the edges of rivers and lakes. A juvenile Triceratops, still with the rounded frill of a young animal, followed its herd into a clearing where the morning light was low and golden across the floodplain. An Ankylosaurus moved through forest shadow at the edge of a creek, its heavy tail swinging in a slow arc as it turned to investigate a sound. In the ocean, a mosasaur circled below a school of ammonites. On a coastal bluff, a Quetzalcoatlus northropi, with a wingspan exceeding 10 meters, adjusted its enormous wings against the morning breeze and scanned the water below with eyes calibrated for detecting movement at distance. A Tyrannosaurus rex moved through the tree margin at the edge of the floodplain, its massive body held nearly horizontal, head forward, small forelimbs pressed against its chest. It was not hunting actively, it moved with the unhurried energy of an animal with no immediate need, its enormous nostrils working the morning air with the thoroughness of a creature whose sense of smell was among the finest on the planet. It paused, watched the Edmontosaurus herd with eyes that registered depth and distance with extraordinary precision, then moved on. It was the last day of the Mesozoic Era. None of the animals living in it had any way of knowing this. The asteroid that ended the dinosaur age entered Earth's atmosphere traveling at approximately 20 kilometers per second, roughly 60 times faster than a rifle bullet. At that speed, the journey from the upper atmosphere to the surface of the Gulf of Mexico took seconds. It was approximately 12 kilometers in diameter, a rocky body that had drifted through the inner solar system for millions of years before an orbital resonance nudged it onto its final trajectory. There was no warning. There was barely, in any human sense of the word, time. The impact site, the Chicxulub crater, centered beneath what is now the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, was not simply an explosion. It was a transformation of matter at a scale that has no modern equivalent. The rock of the seafloor and surrounding limestone platform was vaporized, liquefied, and thrown upward in a column of superheated plasma that punched through the atmosphere and flung ejecta, molten rock droplets, glass spherules, and pulverized debris, across the entire planet. These ejecta re-entered the atmosphere globally over the following hours, and as they decelerated through the air they released thermal energy equivalent to a worldwide inferno. Wildfires ignited across vast stretches of North America, South America, and beyond. The sky turned dark. The impact triggered earthquakes that dwarfed anything in the geological record from any other single cause, magnitude 11 or greater, by some estimates, sustained for minutes and felt across the entire planet. Mega tsunamis propagated outward across the Gulf of Mexico and into the surrounding ocean basins, their wave heights at the shoreline measured in hundreds of meters. In the immediate aftermath, temperatures near the impact zone reached values that nothing biological could survive. Tyrannosaurus rex, somewhere in the interior of North America, survived the first hours. The initial thermal pulse was severe along the Gulf Coast and across much of North America, but the deep interior of the continent offered some insulation against the most immediate effects. The darkness, however, was global and inescapable. Within days, the smoke from wildfires and the sulfur aerosols blasted from the evaporite and limestone bedrock of the Yucatan, materials exceptionally rich in sulfur-bearing compounds, combined with pulverized rock dust to block sunlight across the globe. Photosynthesis slowed. Then stopped. Not everywhere simultaneously, and not immediately in its entirety, but the trend was rapid and irreversible on the timescale of seasons. A world without photosynthesis is a world in which the food web unravels from the bottom up. The plants that the hadrosaurs depended on were dying. The hadrosaurs, with their enormous caloric requirements, began to starve within weeks. The ceratopsians followed. The last sauropod lineages, already reduced in diversity by the end of the Cretaceous but still present in some regions, could find nothing to process in their vast fermentation chambers. The ankylosaurs, whose armor had protected them from every predator the Mesozoic had produced, could not eat rock. Tyrannosaurus rex lasted longer than its prey. A scavenger as well as a hunter, its bone-crushing teeth and extraordinary olfactory system perfectly suited for locating and processing carcasses, it could extract nutrition from the bodies of the dying and the dead long after active hunting became impractical. But there is a limit to what even the most capable scavenger can extract from an ecosystem in total collapse. Without herbivores to kill, without carcasses to find, the final Tyrannosaur starved. The darkness persisted for months, possibly years. When the sun finally began to penetrate the atmosphere again, it illuminated a planet profoundly changed. The 76% of all species on Earth went extinct at or near the Cretaceous-Paleogene boundary. In the oceans, the ammonites, successful for more than 300 million years, were gone entirely. Mosasaurs and plesiosaurs vanished. The pterosaurs, which had shared the sky with feathered dinosaurs for over 150 million years, did not survive. Among the dinosaurs themselves, every non-avian lineage disappeared. The most diverse and ecologically dominant group of land animals in Earth's history was reduced, in geological terms almost instantaneously, to silence. Almost entirely. Because here is what the story of the dinosaurs does not end with: extinction. It ends, if it ends at all, with a bird. A small, feathered, warm-blooded theropod calling from a branch in the early morning of a world still being remade, its feathers the accumulated inheritance of a lineage that had survived the Triassic catastrophe, filled an empty world, built cathedrals of bone, perfected the art of the hunt, and watched the sky on an ordinary morning 66 million years ago without knowing what the sky was about to bring. The avian dinosaurs, the birds, made it through. Their small bodies, capable of subsisting on seeds and insects even when the broader food web had collapsed, their ability to travel vast distances in search of food, their warm blood burning steadily through the cold of the impact winter, these traits, assembled over millions of years for entirely unrelated reasons, turned out to be exactly what was needed to survive the unsurvivable. Paleontologists who work the Hell Creek Formation speak of the experience with a particular kind of intensity. Every bone they find belongs to an animal that was alive within 2 million years of the end. The Tyrannosaurus skull pulled from a hillside in Montana, the Triceratops frill found eroding from a streambank in Wyoming, these are the last generation. The animals that saw the final sunsets of the Mesozoic, that drank from rivers still running through a world that had no knowledge of what was coming. Today, approximately 10,000 species of avian dinosaur move through the world. Every sparrow working through a winter hedge, every peregrine falcon dropping from altitude in a controlled stoop, every albatross riding the southern ocean winds for months without touching land, these are the living dinosaurs. The survivors of the last day.